Hello Year 5 and welcome to one of your other activities for our World Book Day lessons today. So, I haven't necessarily labelled this as English or reading, but I am going to read you some extracts from a different book. And your plan for today is you're going to have a go at writing a humorous chapter for this book based on what we've read and what we've looked at today. Okay, so this lesson might take you a little bit longer. Okay, so you've had your other English lesson where you've written your newspaper report, and this one, it doesn't have to be the longest chapter in the world. But it's an opportunity for you to showcase your skills that you've learnt since we've been in lockdown. So you're going to have a go at writing a humorous chapter for this book. And the book is based on something called Mutant Zombies Cursed My School Trip. Now, I have sent home 3 different extracts to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through those extracts, or you can pause the video and have a read of them yourself. And then I'm going to explain what your task is. Okay, so let's have a look at the first extract here. It's called Extract from Mutant Zombies Cursed My School Trip. It's called Packing the Bag. Well, thanks very much for interrupting, he said. We're actually just about to begin an exciting acting project, and you've just barged in like a stupid, great big blundering pile of dog plops and spoiled it all. Again. He walked over to Ian's mum, who had no idea he was there, picked his nose and smeared a trail of silvery snot right down the side of her face. Ian sniggered, and Remington Furious III disappeared in a triumphant puff of smoke. Now then, said Ian's mum, who couldn't feel the snot trail because there was also part of Ian's imagination. Shall we pack alphabetically or by body zone? Mum, the school trip isn't until Tuesday. Do you really have to do this now? Ian's mum stopped sorting through socks and looked at him. She had a strange, faraway look on her face, a bit like the sort of face Ian made when he went for a secret wee in the sea. It's the very first time you've ever spent a night away from home, she said. How on earth are you going to cope without your mummy to look after you? She paused for a moment. It's not too late to change your mind, you know. You could back out if you wanted and stay here with me. Ian sighed. Mum, I want to go. I'll be fine, he said. I am nearly 11 years old. I can cope with being away from home for a couple of days. Ian's mum was always acting like this, like he couldn't handle anything about her. Well, in that case, let's begin, she said, looking at the back of his clothes. Pants. She handed Ian 7 pairs of pants. 7 pairs? He said. Are you sure? The trip only lasts 2 nights. Ian's mum looked at him in horror. 2 nights, she said. Good point, my little walnut whip. Better make it 10 pairs. You never know when you'll need them. Ian made a face and took the pants. He noticed his mum had packed a pair that had a cartoon alien with the words "Take me to your toilet" written on the front. There was no way he'd be able to make friends if the person he was sharing a room with saw those, so he quickly hid them under his bed. As for the rest of his pants in the suitcase, he picked up a strange-looking bundle that was inside. What's this? It's a special hand hygiene parcel just for you. To make sure you're all clean and safe, I put in a mini pump-action hand sanitizer gel dispenser. Wrapped around that is a packet of wipes to wipe the mini pump-action hand sanitizer gel dispenser, and then wrapped around the wipe is a packet of extra wipes to wipe the first packet of wipes. Ian groaned inside. His mum always overreacted to everything and fussed around him all the time. Sometimes Ian imagined that life would be so much easier if he was some sort of mutated human who could remove his ears and pop them in his pocket so he didn't have to listen to her anymore. The sound of a car pulling up outside interrupted the chat about hand sanitizer. That'll be your father, said Ian's mum. A minute later, the front door opened and Mr. Lanson, came rushing up the stairs and burst into the spare bedroom. He was bright red, contrasting perfectly with his extremely green Whittle uniform. So the next part we're looking at is picking coach partners. This is now a different extract from the chapter. The class cheered at the news. Miss Husk held up her hands to quieten the commotion. Unfortunately, the ceremony is taking place on Wednesday afternoon, which means that we will all miss the big moment because we're going on our school residential trip to Leatherton Hall on Tuesday. Miss Husk looked at Eric and Vinny. I'm afraid it'll mean you two won't be coming on the trip, she said. This award is too prestigious for you to miss. Eric and Vinny shrugged awkwardly for a moment and then sat down. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention was that we need to sort out coach partners for our school residential, said Miss Husk. I want everyone to pair up with who they want to sit next to on the journey. Ian suddenly felt a cold sweat gather at the back of his neck. Had he been given some warning, he might have tried to catch the eye of Beano or Haroon and introduced himself properly. But everything happened so quickly that Ian simply didn't even have a chance. The whole classroom erupted in a whirlwind of shouting and laughter as everyone ran around and sat with their preferred coach partners. After just 30 seconds of mayhem, everyone was sorted. Everyone except Ian. Nervously, he put his hand in the air. Yes, said Miss Husk, looking straight at him. Ian, prompted Ian. Yes, Ian, said Mrs. Husk. What do you want? I haven't got a partner, he said. Miss Husk counted up all the coach partners and saw that he was right. He was the one person in the whole class who didn't have anyone to sit next to. Ian knew this was bad. Very bad. The pairing up of coach partners was the most crucial aspect of any school trip. The journey could last several hours, so it was important to sit next to someone fun. Don't worry, Liam, said Mrs. Husk. You can sit with me. It's Ian, sighed Ian. Oh, so exciting. I remember my school trips when I was at school. Trust me, you didn't have a partner. You knew you'd be sitting next to a teacher. Nobody wants that on a school trip, even if it's an amazing teacher like me. Right, the last extract that we're going to look at here is called The Coach and the Coach Driver. The door slowly hissed open and the driver walked down the steps. She was wearing dark glasses and had a walkie-talkie strapped to her belt, and looked more like a prison guard than a coach driver. Right, she said, pulling up her trousers and resting her hands about. Let's get a few things straight before we start. No cans, no shouting, no talking to the driver. She whipped off her dark glasses, her eyes scanning everyone's faces. And absolutely no singing. I hate singing, she added before walking to the side of the coach and opening up a compartment. Right, bags in here, now. A few minutes later, all the bags were safely stowed in the hold and the driver was back on board. Okay then, shouted Miss Husk, standing next to the door. When I call your names, please make your way onto the bus and find a seat. Hattie and Grace, Tom and Eddie. As the coach partnerships were announced, each pairing ran up the steps of the bus, laughing and screaming, and made for seats as close to the back as possible. Now, believe you me, on any school trip I went on, it was either the back of the bus or the front of the bus. Anywhere in between, just wasn't worth it at all. Before long, only Ian was left. Miss Husk looked at him. She stammered, flipping through some pages on her clipboard. It's Ian, said Ian. Right, said Miss Husk. Ian, of course. You're with me, aren't you? Hop on board then. Mrs. Lanson, or Ianson, I want to say it's Ianson, not Lanson. I need to get my eyes tested. Grabbed Ian by the shoulders and began kissing him repeatedly on the cheeks. Oh, Ian, she said through streaming tears. Be safe, my little pudding. Mum, Ian hissed, you're embarrassing me. Stop embarrassing him, wifey, shouted Remington Furious III, doing a handstand on Ian's mum's shoulders. Ian fought his way out of his mum's vice-like grip and walked up the steps of the coach, followed by Miss Husk. The door hissed shut behind them. We're over here in those seats, said Miss Husk, pointing out 2 seats right next to the on-board toilet. Ugh, there's never a worse place to sit on a bus than by an on-board toilet. Ian walked over to them and sat down. Miss Husk sat down next to him and smiled. I've just remembered that I made some name badges for everyone, she said, slapping a sticky label on his chest with Ian written on it. Oh, just as well, because she thinks he's Liam, not Ian. Ian looked at his name badge as the coach gears crunched and they slowly pulled out of the school playground and trundled off down the road. As the coach went over a speed bump, the toilet door banged open and Ian caught a whiff of something that smelled equal parts floor cleaner, runny cheese, runny cheese, and rotten eggs. What does runny cheese smell like? I mean, surely runny cheese is like cheese on toast. That's not good. I love runny cheese. As he looked around, Ian noticed that he was the only one wearing a name badge. Oh, year 5. Poor Ian. Should we ever go on a school trip this year, or potentially even next year, be thankful that there's 28 of you now in this class now that Fatima's joined us, because before Fatima, you made equal numbers in our class. Before that was 27, so one poor person of you would have ended up sitting next to me on a coach. I wonder which poor person would have had to sit next to you. You'd have had a whale of a time. I mean, it's me, come on. I mean, I know your names, and I'm hilarious. I'm the best teacher ever, so it wouldn't be that bad, surely. So, your task is to now have a go at writing a new chapter for the book, describing what happened on the coach journey. So you've had a bit of a build-up and a character description. You've got elements of Ian's life, let's call him Liam then, of his life, about what home life's like. Obviously, he's been embarrassed on the school bus. You know, maybe his suitcase falls off and all of his underpants fall out all on the floor, all the hand sanitizer falls out and he gets picked on the bus. So one way or another, Ian's going to be a target for a lot of what's going to go wrong on this bus. Now, you need to make the chapter as funny as you can. Okay, and you need to think about quite literally everything that could go wrong on the school journey. And then at the end of the video, I'll give you some ideas because I've been on plenty of school trips myself. So I'll give you some ideas of what could possibly horribly go wrong on a school trip. So think about these questions when you're writing it. So what happens if Ian takes his bag on the coach and accidentally springs open? I mean, I've just told you the underpants are going to go everywhere. And there's nothing to say that his mum picked up those pants that he'd hidden under his bed, you know, with the cartoon pictures all over it. And there's nothing to say that those cartoon pictures might not even be boy pictures. I mean, it could just be something like Hello Kitty or SpongeBob. I mean, you've got to make it as embarrassing as you possibly can. What happens if someone starts singing on the bus? Obviously, the bus driver said no singing. Absolutely hates singing. What happens if Ian falls asleep? Oh dear, that could be interesting. What happens if someone tries to talk to the bus driver? Obviously, that's another rule the bus driver said that this didn't want to happen. What happens with the toilet? Okay. Anything could go horribly wrong with this toilet. Equally, the toilet could just stop working altogether. And if they're on a very long journey, they're going to have to pull over somewhere. So there might be a disastrous part where maybe Ian gets left behind. Maybe they've all gone to the bathrooms. Miss hasn't counted the names properly because he's the only one wearing the name badge. Maybe he gets left behind and they have to come back to find him. And what does Ian talk to his teacher about? So you imagine if you're sat with, imagine you're sat with a teacher that, you know, isn't particularly nice or, is the opposite of me, basically. Like everything you don't want in a teacher, because obviously I'm amazing. And think about what possible conversations you could have. Because believe you me, there's nothing worse than trying to talk to an adult that you don't really know or particularly don't like, or especially someone who doesn't even make the effort to know your name, okay? That could be very interesting. Now, I've got 5 top tips to help you, okay? Think about what makes you laugh and write about that, okay? If you make yourself laugh, then you're going to make other people laugh too. And I'm not being funny. I know what you're all like. I mean, we do get lots of work done, but you guys really do like to go off on a tangent, and there have been plenty of opportunities where we've giggled a lot in our classroom, okay? So think about what makes you laugh and write about it. It's the easiest thing to do. And you can quite literally add jokes to anything, names of characters, you've got place names, dialogue between characters, maybe things the characters are holding, like SpongeBob pants. Okay, maybe when he's fallen asleep, people have put the pants on his head. Maybe he's woken up with pants on his head. Things that the characters do. But also like boring bits of the story, you can make more interesting with jokes. Even if you use something like a simile to describe something, just make it sort of over the top, exaggerate it. So you can say that he moved as fast as a cheetah, but let's make that a stupid simile. He moved as faster than a cheetah that was riding a motorbike on skis. So he's got skis attached to his feet, but he's riding a motorbike and it's a cheetah. Okay? Think just completely stupid things outside of the box. Now, just because you can add jokes to anything doesn't mean you need to add jokes to everything, okay? You've got to almost keep the comedy flowing, but you don't want to be over the top with it. So you need to make sure that your funny lines, when it says that they'll have much more impact, the odd funny line here or there, you want to almost like bring the reader back in. Oh yeah, that bit was funny. Read a paragraph. Oh, there's another funny bit. You don't want it to be too continuous, okay? Then read back your story to yourself out loud. Use different voices. Okay, if you've got a character shouting, make sure that when you say that line for your character, you're shouting that line if they're whispering it, or if they've got a hoarse voice, or, if they've got a different accent potentially. You'll be amazed at how many errors you pick up on when you read your work out loud. I mean, for example, when you read your work. I mean, I did that one on purpose. But we know that I don't do those on purpose all the time. Sometimes my spelling mistakes are just there. And Miss Humphrey doesn't realise until it's too late into the video. So make sure you read it out loud so that your work makes sense. And my last one here that I've got, okay, isn't really much of a 5th point, okay? But I said come up with 5 things. So I just thought I'd make up another one off the end. Okay, so really, it's only 4 points, okay? So see here, I'm being humorous. I'm keeping you on your toes. So there is another point of, oh no, wait, I forgot the point. No, there is no point. Okay. Well, there is no, sorry. I've completely forgotten my point. Well, there isn't a 5th point. There you go. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Okay. kept you on your toes there, didn't I? Haha. So, have a go at rewriting a new chapter, okay? If you want to make it so it's a picture book, you want to draw some pictures that might go with it and make it more as like a comic strip with dialogue, that's fine, go for it. But I want it year 5 level, okay? It needs to be year 5 quality, okay? I don't want comic strip books written by year 1, okay? Or year 2 children, okay? You can still make a good book, okay? And make it a year 5 level, okay? And I am so excited to read some of these stories when we come back on Monday, all right? Good luck with that activity, year 5.